Hear that? That's now Crispy and McCrispy strips meeting Creamy Caesar sauce. Sounds extra crispy. Caesar sauce at McDonald's for a limited time. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome to Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens. And we're coming to you on a Saturday morning right on the heels of the Orioles trade with the Minnesota Twins that sends Dean Kremer to Minnesota in exchange for outfielder Jhomnardo Reyes. We're going to break down that trade in this episode of Orioles on the Verge, which is brought to you by IQ Bar, our exclusive snack, hydration, and coffee sponsor. IQ Bar protein bars, IQ Mix hydration mixes, and IQ Joe mushroom coffees are delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel you need to win your day. The Ultimate Sampler Pack is a great way to try all IQ Bar products and flavors. You get 9 IQ Bars, 8 IQ Mix sticks, and 4 IQ Joe sticks. All IQ Bar products are clean labeled certified and entirely free from gluten, dairy, soy, GMOs, and artificial ingredients. All IQ Bar products are packed with clean, delicious ingredients that keep you physically and mentally fit, like magnesium, lion's mane, and more. With over 20,000 5-star reviews and counting, more people are fueling their busy lifestyles with IQ Bars, brain and body boosting bars, hydration mixes, and mushroom coffees. Their Ultimate Sampler Pack includes all 3. IQ Bars become part of my daily routines, whether it's starting my morning with IQ Joe, grabbing an IQ Bar or IQ Mix to refuel or rehydrate after a hard workout. And right now, IQ Bar is offering our special podcast listeners 20% off all IQ Bar products, including the Ultimate Sampler Pack, plus free shipping. To get your 20% off, text MLB to 64,000. Text MLB to 64,000. That's MLB to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. After their win against the Phillies on Friday, the Orioles announced they had completed a trade with the Minnesota Twins that sent longtime rotation stalwart Dean Kremer to Minnesota in exchange for outfield prospect Jhomnardo Reyes, who's coming off a pretty successful run in the FCL and was recently promoted to low-A Fort Myers in the Twins system. And we'll talk about Reyes in a moment, but I want to start with the Kremer side of this deal. Kremer, the last player remaining in the organization from the 2018 deadline deal that sent Manny Machado to the Dodgers in exchange for prospects. Kremer debuted with the Orioles back in 2020, but it took until 2022 for him to settle in as a consistent major league starter. And for the next several years, he was a successful pitcher in the Orioles rotation, helping them fill a lot of innings towards the back end of the rotation part of back-to-back playoff teams over the 2023 and 2024 seasons. This year, though, has been a bit turbulent for Kremer. He was optioned to AAA, out of spring training, only to be recalled to the majors early in the season after Zach Eflin went down with an injury. Kremer would make a few starts before going on the IL himself. He was out for a few months and then came off the IL and has struggled since then. So far this season, he has a 6.5 ERA with 12 home runs allowed, over 36 innings pitched. The Twins taking a chance, though, that he'll be able to turn things around for them down the stretch. They'll also have an extra year of control before he hits free agency following the 2027 season. So, Nick, I'll start with you here. I know you wrote up your thoughts over our Substack, OriolesOnTheVerge.substack.com, where you're keeping a running log of the trades completed at the deadline. So what was your reaction to this deal when you saw it come through?
Shocking. Almost missed it. Honestly, I was working on my computer, and then I just happened to have Twitter open and checked it right before I shut it down. I was going to go to bed, and then I saw the flurry of tweets and was like, all right, well, we've got to move. I will first say that I still remember exactly where I was and what I was doing when the Manny Machado trade was announced, which, of course, brought Dean over. But it's, as an Orioles fan, it's been frustrating many nights watching him pitch. He's had a lot of great moments as well, like you mentioned. I know you look back since 2022, like you said, when he really started to establish himself, he's thrown the 40th most innings in the major leagues, all with the Orioles since 2022. He's been worth over 7 F4 since then, which, ranks, I looked real quick, ranks 78th since the 2022 season. Are those, it's not an unbelievable number, but it's a perfectly fine kind of back into the rotation guy, right? And I think it was actually used it might have been a couple of years ago at this point, when you made a point, when we're talking about Dean Kremer, is always kind of like, He's not the guy you want in your playoff rotation, right? If that is, then you've got troubles. And when he started that playoff game a couple of years ago, it was, Dean was always pitching in spots where, above his head, right? And I think you had said, like, if Dean Kremer was on another team, right, and we were seeing the production he was putting up, we would look at that and be like, that's a really good number 5 guy. But, he's here with the Orioles. We're watching the nightly, every 5 days, the ups, the downs. We're riding that wild roller coaster. And so a lot of nights, more often than not, I think it could be frustrating some seasons. But I don't know, this year it just seemed like you mentioned, beginning of the year in Norfolk's rotation after being optioned, Dean kind of backed himself into a corner at this point. And I think the Orioles were able to really strike while he still had some value. And at least the Twins thought so. I don't know how many other teams maybe thought they had this kind of value, but with him not beginning the year in the rotation, he's beginning the year in AAA, then the injury. So I don't know if it's maybe all the craziness of this year, or are we seeing the beginning of the decline for Dean Kremer? Like, I don't know, but it was a 6.5 ERA. The FIP was still like over 6. I think even the expected ERA was like almost 5. Yeah, there's some like the extreme home run to fly ball rate you could see maybe being a little bit of an outlier, but just kind of like, I don't know. I kind of tend to think that the Orioles needed him to step up right now, and he wasn't doing that. All except his first start off the IL, it's been pretty bad 6 starts since then, especially his last couple of outings. And you don't have options, even though you have that extra year of control there. You don't have the options. You've got Chris Bassett coming back. You've got other options. I'm sure we'll touch on in a minute. I feel like this was a pretty good move to get some decent value back for Kremer when I don't know how much value he was providing the major league team right now.
Yeah, great points. It was definitely a shot of adrenaline as I was laying in bed last night, getting ready to turn down and go to sleep and see what happens the next day with the Orioles, and saw the notification. It was at everyone worthy on our Discord, and yeah, shot of adrenaline. I didn't fall asleep till like 1 a.m. after that, just looking up stuff on this new guy and diving into that. So yeah, Dean Kremer, there's a reason that Matt Winter, our patron, came up with Dean Plus. He's about as average as a pitcher can be. I think even JCM on Twitter tweeted out something like he is dead even average starting pitcher over the last 4 or 5 years. But that's valuable. I mean, that has been valuable for the Orioles, especially with the injuries that go through pitching. He's pretty consistent. I was looking at the last 4 seasons, not including 2026, and he averaged 150 innings with a 3.95 ERA in that time, 4.17 FIP. So, he's going to be that back-end starter that just stabilizes a rotation during the regular season, mind you. Yeah, you don't want him starting in the playoffs in most likelihoods because, he's not going to shut anyone down, but he'll keep you in games. This season, he's always been a slow starter, and then this year he gets optioned to start the year. So hopefully, I guess they were hoping to get those kinks out early in AAA. Then he comes up, and I feel like he had a good game or two, and then he gets hurt. So I feel like we pushed his slow start into the middle of the season where every game matters a lot right now. And I just don't think we had the runway to let him figure it out, which I think he probably would. And Minnesota might be getting him at the right time, to be honest. And yeah, just a career low ground ball rate, 33%. So he already has home run problems. That's not going to help. Probably a little bit unlucky on the home run to fly ball rate, like Nick said, but he does give up bombs. And yeah, it just, when the Orioles are in a situation where Chris Bassett will be back soon, you have Nestor Urman, Trey Gibson, K. Povich sitting there. Brandon Young has kind of surpassed Dean Kremer as he's like caught that baton as it gets passed to him as the mid to back end sturdy rotation guy, hopefully, knock on wood. I think, and also trade deadline's coming. There's still some days they could trade for a starting pitching upgrade in this rotation now. It's more possible now that the room is there. Kremer was out of options as well, passed him 5 years of service time. So love the trade. Loved Kremer while he was here. Maybe not always showing him the love because league average can be frustrating because half the time they're going to be worse and half the time he was pretty good. So we'll miss Dean. I think I looked it up. Manny Machado provided the Dodgers with 2.8 WAR after the trade in 2018, and Dean had 7.4 WAR in his time in Baltimore. So we won the trade, guys. We won the trade.
Yeah, and Nick, I remember the exact point, the exact discussion you just brought up a minute ago that we had about Kremer a few years ago. And my point then was that if Kremer were on another team, if you were on the Brewers, if you were on the Marlins, if you were on the Mariners, which was the rosters that we always tended to look at every offseason, every trade deadline of, oh, who has surplus starting pitching that we can go get? Kremer would have been a guy that Orioles fans would have been all over going after because they're not living through the ups and downs. They just look at the stat line. They see, oh, this guy's a productive mid to back of the rotation starter, and he's perfectly good for a contending team. You don't want him starting a playoff series. The Orioles got themselves in that spot in 2023. But I will say, in fairness to Kremer, because I think Orioles fans over-scrutinized that start still, that series was over when he took the mound in Game 3. Dropping 2 straight at home against a team that was as hot as the Rangers were was the end of that series. They were not going to come back and win that one. But to this point now, where we are in the present day, having Kremer around was not giving you a lot of roster flexibility. And even though Chris Bassett has had his fair share of struggles this year before the injury, the way Kremer has pitched lately, you can make a reasonable argument that Bassett was going to be an upgrade when he came back. And if you put Kremer in the bullpen, which is the only thing you can do, you're kind of stuck. So if you have an opportunity to move him now while the value is still there, you do it. And this does give you the flexibility. If you want to put Bassett right back in the rotation when he comes off the IL, you can do that. In the short run, maybe Cade Pilvitz gets a start that would have gone to Kremer on Tuesday. You also have Nestor Herman and Trey Gibson, who could love big league innings this year. And look, with the mode that the Orioles are in right now, and Mike Elias talked about this on Friday, they're neither hard buyers nor hard sellers. To me, that means that if a good deal opens up between now and Monday afternoon, there's an opportunity to add starting pitching depth, they're going to do it. And this leaves open a spot where you can drop that pitcher in. The rotation, we're in a weird year in a lot of ways, but it's especially weird that we're going into the deadline with the rotation not being a priority, and that as you're looking at how to make this roster better, this is the kind of move that you can start with because it does give you more flexibility in rounding out the rest of the roster. But what that allows the Orioles to do is if there's a good number 4 and number 5 sitting out there on Monday afternoon, maybe they have a year and a half of team control left, they can go make that move and hopefully get more production from that pitcher than they would have gotten out of Dean Kremer down the stretch. And what the Twins get back, I think, is a guy that if he can find his form, rounds out the back of the rotation. Their rotation has had its fair share of ups and downs past Joe Ryan. And then next year, if they're going for it, he's a really good guy to have at the back end. And if they do trade Joe Ryan this offseason, but they still have an eye on contention, he at least raises the floor of the group that is left over. So I understand it from the Twins' perspective, but I also understand the trade from the Orioles side of it as well.
Yeah.
Do we know for sure if the Twins were taking on his salary? Was that
They took the entire salary, yeah.
That makes the return even that much better. Which, first of all, where are the Twins getting this money from? Because I thought they were crying poor coming into the year, and now they were basically buying AJ Minter and Dean Kremer. But yeah, like you couldn't DFA him and try to sneak him through waivers. He's not going through waivers, and I feel like the production or lack thereof recently, but what Dean Kremer is going to provide you, even if he does turn it around, because I do agree, like if give him a little bit more runway this year, maybe he does turn around a little bit and becomes more towards normal Dean Kremer, right? I feel like these last 2 months, you can still kind of piece together between Povich and Gibson and Bassett, that kind of production. And yeah, we've still got, I don't know exactly how many hours, but 2.5 days until the deadline. Yeah, more moves are going to be made for sure. And you mentioned Nestor Herman, Herman he's not on the 40-man, but he's ready. And we've been talking about that more and more the last couple of weeks. He's more and more ready, I should say. I won't definitively say he is ready, but he's looked great these last 2 months down there in AAA. So yeah, I think just there's a lot of options the Orioles have right now, flexible options, guys that could be sent down and shuffled back and forth to help replace Dean in the meantime. And yeah, I won't say I wish Dean the best of luck right now because Orioles need the Twins to lose here. So I will say I hope Dean keeps pitching like he has been for these next couple of months. But I do think, once the season's over, once the dust is settled, you look back at Dean Kremer. Yeah, personally, I'll always look back at it as a guy who, I probably never appreciated it enough. It could be it was frustrating a lot of nights, but the good was good. And he was there for many years, and over 700 innings. We watched the guy pitch in an Orioles uniform, but yeah.
Hey, Tuesday night in Baltimore, post-trade deadline, the Angels are in town. Reed Detmers is scheduled to start for the Angels. Just have him switch clubhouses. Suit up for the other team that night. Could happen. Just thinking of guys that could fill his spot. Maybe you can get a Freddie Peralta or Clay Holmes from the Mets to fill that spot for the rest of the season. I don't know what kind of value. I know Holmes is coming off a pretty long IL stint pretty soon here. He's about ready to be back, and Peralta hasn't been very good. So, but there are a lot of options out there to fill his spot, including Nestor Herman, who I'm nominating. He's my favorite to be the guy that starts Tuesday, even if it's just a one and done. Just let him get his feet wet there.
We'll go over the return for the Orioles in this deal, and that is Reyes, an 18-year-old outfielder that was signed by the Twins as part of their January 2025 international free agent class. He got a $300,000 bonus. The native of the Dominican Republic made his professional debut in the DSL in 2025, turned in a solid season, and then was promoted to the FCL this year, where he logged a good year at the plate. Total of 22 extra base hits, including 7 homers, 12 doubles, and 3 triples. Also hit .296 with a 138 WRC plus. Coming into the season, Reyes was ranked as the 10th best prospect in the Twins system by Eric Longenhagen at Fangraphs, who gave him 40 future value hit tool, 65 raw power, 50 run, and 50 fielding grades. What we're seeing from Reyes right now is that he is tapping into that raw power in games, a nice uptick in home runs this year. Now, it is worth pointing out, and it's a fair observation, that with a guy like this, it is a bit of a lottery ticket. 18 years old, very athletic, but also very raw. There are concerns at this point about the hit tool, but you look at the package there, and it's easy to dream on what his ceiling could be in the future. He was in Low A Fort Myers at the time of the trade. I don't believe his roster assignment in the Orioles farm system has been announced yet, but it is possible that maybe we see him in Delmarva over the final weeks of the season. Nick, I'll turn it back over to you here. What are your thoughts on Reyes?
I think I know that comment we had earlier in the chat saying Orioles basically got back a back-end first-round pick from the Twins in return. And, yeah, that was the note Eric Longenhagen, I think, had in his write-up this year, that he kind of viewed Reyes as the quality of player he is right now is being a first-round high school pick. We just talked a lot about the draft over the last couple of weeks, and all those not first round, but all the high school picks that was brought in. Well, they're bringing in another one. Yeah, you read off the numbers there. It's really quality. The 120 WRC plus in the DSL, the 138 WRC plus this year in the FCL. The uptick in power is great. He's walking a ton. He did strike out. The strikeouts looked a lot better this year when he came stateside. It was a 28.5% strikeout rate in the DSL, but that went down. It's like 22% this year. Yeah, I know. I don't know if you guys saw this article. I just saw him share it on Twitter. I don't know who the guy is until I saw the tweet, but it was Zach McCown. I don't know if you have like a additional publication you write at or what you do, but I saw the tweet and he wrote an article that basically looked at some of his favorite FCL prospects using StatCast data this year, because again, it's a reminder, we get a lot of it, but it is incomplete. So you don't get the full picture because not all the parks are public. But when you see an 18-year-old kid who's putting up a max EV north of 110 miles an hour, and his 90 EV is 109 miles per hour, and as McCown points out in his article, those numbers would rank him in the 90th percentile for 18-year-olds since 2019. So like, clearly some good raw power. And yeah, the hit tool, the 40 hit tool, and of course everybody's going to look at it and say hit tool. I get it. But there's good and there's bad. And as Zach points out in his article here, it's overall, he's running like a 90% end zone contact rate in FCL this year, which is very good. But he's really struggled with fastballs in the zone. That's been his issue. Fastballs 95 and up, just a 60% contact rate. But against breaking balls, a 92% end zone contact rate. So he can hit breaking balls. He just seems to be struggling with some velo in the zone. So like there's a lot of really good. There's some bad. But he's 18 years old. He's had a couple of ticks in the EV in just 1 year. I think you see enough in some of the hit tool numbers. And I don't know if you guys have seen more, what your thoughts on there, but I think there are reasons to be optimistic of if this could be just an average hit, it's plus power. It's you read off 50 grades across the board for fielding and running and everything. Still 18 years old. Strikeouts are trending down, and the Twins thought highly enough of him to push him to single A this last week. I mean, how many 18-year-olds do we see in the Orioles system get pushed up to Delmarva? A couple, but it's not something you see very frequently. So, yeah, and it just seems like looking around a little bit last night and this morning, it just seemed like everybody who studies prospects at this level closely, Twins fans who are knowledgeable about the system and understanding of who Reyes is, everyone is like, this is a dude. This is a guy. A lot of frustrations that the Twins parted with him because he is extremely young and showing signs of progression already. And that 6'3" frame is something that you can really dream on there. So, yeah, this is a fun prospect to do, like a real valuable prospect the Orioles are bringing into the system here.
Yeah, I love these types of trades because to me, if you're trading a guy with admittedly some value, but not a ton, like Andrew Kittredge last year for Wilfred De La Cruz. Love that trade, especially because we got Kittredge back for nothing later. This is very similar, although I think this is much less of a lottery ticket than I think some people think it is because Wilfred De La Cruz was in the DSL last year when we got him and a lot younger. Well, maybe not a lot younger, 17 compared to 18. But, I mean, Reyes is already in low A. It's only been a week, but he's already in low A. He's dominated the FCL. He'll be 18 the rest of the season. Like, this to me is like if the Orioles traded for a more refined Thomas Sosa after he had his breakout in the FCL. Seems like similar power at their ages, similar strikeout rate at their ages, but Jhomnardo, which is an amazing name, strikes out or walks a little bit more than Sosa has at this point in their careers. So, yeah, I love this trade. I think he's got corner outfield power hitter written all over him. Jom, Elias 8 with this trade. No, I love the upside. And, man, if you could get this kind of guy, or if this is what you can get for Dean Kremer, what can you get for Taylor Ward at this point? And is it better to buy and sell every deadline at this point if this is the type of things you can do? This trade just got me thinking even more positively about what could be in store before Monday's deadline.
And with that, now we will head into our final segment, Last Call, brought to you by Checker Spot Brewing, located at 1421 Ridgely Street. Checker Spot is not far from Camden Yards, making it the perfect place for a pre- or post-game drink. And given the timing of this, especially for you live viewers out there, you still got a chance to get to the in-person hot dog race that will be happening today. Checker Spot teaming up with fellow South Baltimore Brewery District breweries Pickett and Mate for this annual tradition. Checker Spot, a two-time winner, will be running as Reyes. That will take place in the parking lot outside of Pickett at 4 p.m. today. So perfect pregame activity before the Orioles take on the Phillies tonight in Game 2 of their series. However, if you can't make it over there today, there are plenty of opportunities to do so as Checker Spot is open 7 days a week. It's also a great place to watch the game with good food and drinks to go along with plenty of televisions. That is Checker Spot Brewing, located at 1421 Ridgely Street in South Baltimore. And now, given the timing of this trade, I think this is a really pertinent question. We are a little more than a week from updating our top 50 prospects list. This is the annual thing we do in season every year. So I think that it's a fair question now. Where would Reyes rank in our personal top 50s? Of course, this is subject to change because more could happen at the trade deadline as prospects go in and or out of the system. But this is a good conversation starter as we gear up to update our top 50. So, Bob, I'll start with you. Right now, can you give us at least a rough estimate of where you expect Reyes to land on your personal top 50?
I can give you exactly where I threw him in on my spreadsheet. This is one of my favorite things to do when these trades happen is, let's go to the spreadsheet and try to figure out where we're going to put him. And, yeah, the disclaimer that we're still a week away, a little bit more than a week away from unveiling our list. This is not finalized. I'm still tinkering. I'm still, we don't know a ton about Reyes yet. No more than I did this time yesterday, but still some to learn and more things could happen. But Baseball America had him at 10th in the Twin system before the draft, 12 now. Fangraphs had him at 10th. I think Pipeline had him like 27th to 24th, something like that. So I have him at 19 on my list at this point, right in the same area as like a Kevin Roberts Jr., who the Orioles obviously just took in the draft in the 4th round. That high school talent, similar ages, athleticism. But I love it. I think this is, if you can get a top 20 prospect for Dean Kremer, I mean, hats off to you, Michael Elias.
Yeah, I will. It is just true. You get somebody to take on Dean's salary, which I mean wasn't a ton, but still to take on the rest of his salary and to get a legitimate prospect like this is still pretty awesome. And I guess to wrap up the point too, yeah, this is by no means that the Orioles are hard sellers in any sense. Like you're trading a guy who was basically closer to being DFA'd and being lost for nothing, and you're able to get something back. I just love any trade with the Twins over the last couple of years. But where would he rank? Like other than just the general ranges I talked about with some of the recent draft picks, I still haven't sat down with my list because I'm waiting for all the dust to settle. But 15 to 25 range, if I narrow it down a little bit more, maybe the 17 to 22 range. There are a couple of those draft picks, like the Kevin Roberts and some other draft picks. I'm still not. I need to sit down with it a lot more, but I would say probably somewhere in that 17 to 22 range.
Usually when we do our list, we'll always get the question afterwards of if you broke it down into tiers, what would it look like? And that's kind of proven to be a hard exercise. But for this particular list that's coming up, I do think you have a clearly defined tier of young, athletic outfield prospects that would include Reyes, Kevin Roberts Jr., who you both just mentioned. And then I would probably lump Jordan Sanchez and Steven Martinez into that group as well. So if I'm trying to guess right now where I'm going to put them on my personal top 50, I think all are going to fall somewhere in the 20s. I may have Reyes ahead of Martinez and Sanchez for now, just because I think that the all-around athleticism gives him a little bit more upside. The real debate for me is where I'm going to have him in comparison to Roberts, because I do think their profiles are very similar. Roberts, based on the reports, the defense might be a little bit better now, so that could give him a leg up. But much like Nick, I haven't really sat down and started to put my list anywhere close to its final form yet. So this is just a rough estimate, but I feel like safely somewhere in the front half to the middle of the 20s will be where Reyes lands.
If we just take the group of prospects we have in this general range right now, other international prospects, Steven Martinez, Jordan Sanchez, Thomas Sosa, Wilfred De La Cruz, do we think Reyes is like, would you say he's firmly above that tier? Do you guys think? Or do you guys, where?
I don't know about firmly, but I'd say he's at least towards the front of that tier. Maybe leading the way, just because, much like Steve Martinez, at a young age, he's been pushed to low A. Like if his season at the FCL and they didn't think he was ready, and I would like to see what the Orioles do. If they put him right to Delmarva and he gets going, like that's a good sign too.
I would probably have him above De La Cruz, because if I look at those two guys, there's a clear difference in Reyes in that you're starting to see the raw power translate into game power, which has not been the case with De La Cruz yet. And, it's not fair to just look at the back of the baseball card stats and decide. But in this case, you can look and see that there's a pretty clear gap in the production in the same level, similar ages for both guys this year. De La Cruz, it wasn't a bad year, but it was nowhere near the production that Reyes put up in the FCL this season. So I'd have him above De La Cruz, definitely. Him and Sosa, that's going to be a tough one, because Sosa's year has been so up and down that I don't know what to make of it. But he is in Double-A, and they seem to have similar profiles. So I can't take the decision to put Reyes ahead of him or behind him lightly. So that's what I need to think through a little bit more.
Good, you should get some thoughts. I was looking at Fangraphs list, and I wouldn't be shocked if he's like 10 to 12 on the Fangraphs list, ahead of like EBJ, to be completely honest.
It'll be interesting, that's for sure. I'm excited for the midseason top 50, because there's a lot of helium in this system. There's a lot of change that could happen in the next couple days. So, yeah, it'll be fun.
Absolutely. And we're going to be really busy the next few days here. We may or may not have another show this weekend, depending on whether or not there's a big trade. But regardless, Bob and I will be going live on YouTube Monday evening, right towards the end of the trade deadline, to break down everything that happened. And then we will have our main show that night, recapping the trade deadline and presenting our July All-Stars for the Orioles farm system. And then the following week, so Monday, August 10th, will be our top 50 prospects list. So if you've not subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, now is the perfect time to do so, because you will be notified when we go on air for those shows. We are on many social media channels. Of course, we're also on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Twitch. We're also over at Substack, OriolesOnTheVerge.substack.com. We'll be running a tracker over there of all trades that the Orioles make. We also wrote up the Zane Barnhart for Jake Rogers trade that happened earlier this week, so you can get our thoughts on that one as well. And while you're browsing around the internet, be sure to head over to patreon.com and sign up to become a member today. At the $3, $5, or $10 levels, you'll have access to monthly updates to our top 50 list, as well as bonus weekly shows from Bob, Nick, and myself, and patron-exclusive channels within our Discord community, and a whole lot more. So be sure to check that out. For Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens, this is Zach Spedden. You've been listening to Orioles on the Verge, part of the Believe Podcast Network.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer at a beverage manufacturing plant, he starts his day knowing every line is ready to run, because Grainger delivers the industrial-grade products he needs to keep mixers, conveyors, and packaging equipment moving. With Grainger's vast selection of bearings, belts, and motors, he keeps operations running smoothly, so nothing grinds to a halt. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.